Great to be chatting with Brandon Jenkins, who's back in action. PFL 3, April 14th. He's going to be taking on Zach Juusola. Brandon, how's it going, man?
Wonderful. I feel like I've been in camp for like 6 months now. So
yeah, no, has it been tough getting? I was going to ask you about that actually. Has it been difficult getting fights? I think the last time we spoke, you were fighting up in Canada. How has that been? Post UFC.
Yeah, it's funny. I was in London with Jordan Levitt and Lance, and they offered me that unified fight, and I want to say that was like June of last year or maybe July, and then I fought September, and then right after that had a pro boxing match in December. So then I had another fight in January lined up, and then I got pulled from that 2 days before the fight to go on the Ultimate Fighter.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So then, so it was like literally Wednesday, and they're like, "Hey, you can't fight this weekend. You're gonna be on the Ultimate Fighter, so we have to pull you." And I'm like cutting weight and everything, so they had to stop that. And then I was like, "Okay, well, stay in shape for another month, and then you're gonna be on the Ultimate Fighter." And then I was in the Ultimate Fighter hotel for like 2 weeks straight, and just isolating from everybody. And then that was pretty stressful. Plus, you have to like maintain your weight without all the stuff you usually have around you, whether it be like the PI or nutritionist or stuff like that, or just training. And then, I guess Connor brought his own dudes or whatever.
Yeah, which was, I mean, I get it, but also like you just mentioned it there. You just stay there for 2 weeks. So how did you find out? Like, and you must have been like livid. I would be if you had to do that for 2 weeks and then they find out you're not even on the show.
Well, what sucked was I had that fight in January. It was supposed to be for NFC, and I was fighting another vet, and I was just, I'm missing out on a paycheck because they were like, "Hey, you're gonna fight the Ultimate Fighter." And I was like, "All right, well, still, I'm missing out on a paycheck. I need money, whatever." And I get there, they pay you for 2 weeks. It's not as much as I would have got from my fight purse, but they have you sit in a hotel, and for 30 minutes a day, you can hit this punching bag.
What?
we're all using the same like gloves and stuff. It's gross. And then I don't know how much I can really say technically.
Yeah, no worries. I don't want to get you in trouble, but it wasn't ideal conditions. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. So they let you out of the hotel to go run the streets or whatever for like a couple hours a day. Like you can, hey, I'm gonna go run for an hour, and then you go run for an hour. And then you come back to the hotel and you just freaking sit there, and it's terrible. And then you can hit the punching bag with gross, sweaty gloves for like 30 minutes, But yeah, the producer came in, basically was like, "Hey, there's extra people now that Connor brought a couple guys, and you're an alternate now." So they're like, well, literally that day, I did my ESPN interviews, and they're like, "Hey, we're gonna come get your phone at like 9:30, tell everybody goodbye." They gave me my like sparring gear for Ultimate Fighter House. And so I was like, okay, I'm definitely in. They gave me my gear, and then he's like, "Hey," comes up at 9:30 and sits on my bed. He's like, "Hey, I need to tell you something." And then, yeah, you're the most readily available alternate because you're here in Vegas. So stay ready. So I stayed ready for like 6 weeks, and I was sitting around like low 70s, and that's as low as my body gets, and I usually have to do like a 15-pound water cut, and like my testosterone was in the shitter. Like I was just like super unhappy, and like I was really mentally taxing for sure, just staying where I can just make 155 on a week's notice. And then finally this came around. They're like, "Hey, it's at 70. I was like, "I'm 73, I can do this."
There you go. Yeah.
So okay. I'm not really cutting any weight for this one. I can eat food, and I've been like 75 and just a lot happier. Just my quality of life has been way better this last like 3 or 4 weeks. So
that's crazy though. So yeah, if you add up all the time, it was a good stretch. Was this when was that, like that period that you were like in the hotel and stuff? Was that January, February? When was that?
Late January, early February.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, they like order you food and stuff like that, and they take care of you. But yeah,
but just like not being in a hotel room for 2 weeks, that's crazy. And you're not on vacation, so.
Well, they're like, "Hey, you can stay for a couple more days." But I was like, "No, I'm local. I'm gonna go home." Like,
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, like I'm gonna go home. Like literally, it's funny because 2 other guys got like let go, and I literally went back to the gym, and then they were there, and then we all just sparred each other. So
Yeah.
I let go on like a Monday, and then Tuesday I went back or maybe it was Wednesday, and then got let go on Wednesday, and Thursday I was like, hey, I guess you guys are alternates too. We're just waiting, and they're like, yeah. So a couple of the guys that stayed in Vegas, so we all just like sparred at the gym. It was cool.
Yeah, that's crazy. So sorry they had to go through all that. That's such a bummer. And again, I get the Connor side of things, but they should have figured that out before they selected you guys, right? Like that would have made, hey, just before we select everyone for the show, we're going to check with Connor first and see if he wants his guys. I mean, I think that's, kind of bad on the UFC's part, but what are you going to do? Let's talk about your opponent, Zach Juusola, a veteran. Do you know much about him? Because one of the interesting things is I know he does train in Vegas. Was he someone you were pretty familiar with?
Our gym does like a community sparring day and community open rolls on the weekends. So he actually comes over like once a month and just kind of like rolls in boxes with the guys over at our gym. So I've actually had rounds with him in the past. For my pro boxing match, he gave me some good rounds. That was back in December. So I remember he was saying something like, hey, I hope you get back in the UFC, and hopefully I can get on one of these PFL cards coming up. I was like, yeah, that'd be cool. I'll come watch. I didn't know we were both going to be fighting each other. So it's kind of a weird thing, but yeah.
You got to get paid. Yeah. I mean, not ideal circumstances these last few months for sure. Have you spoken to him since they booked the fight, or do you guys haven't even spoken?
No, we had one of our guys fighting in the Challenger series, and I was down in Orlando cornering him. And then my manager calls like, hey, this is a weird one. Would you be okay with this? Are you interested in this? I was like, yeah, I'll do it. I mean, we're just trying to like provide for our family at the end of the day. Like it's nothing personal. So, and it's at 70. So my last like 4 trips to 155 had just been horrendous. So I'm 2-2, but it's weird because the last 3 times I went to 55, I have had like 2-minute knockouts. But those 2 minutes are just horrible. Like my body just feels like shit. And then like my 2 UFC fights, 155 short notice, and then my PFL fight short notice. Well, not really short notice, but I had a good result, but I felt like crap. And then my unified fight was like one of the worst cuts I've ever had in my whole life. And even though it was 1 minute 47 seconds, I just felt like I was moving like I was underwater, and threw up all my rehydration stuff. Lance was there, helped me cut weight through all of it, and he almost pulled me. It was that bad. And then right after weigh-ins, I got off the scale, started drinking my rehydration stuff, threw it all up in front of the promoters. Promoters were like, oh my gosh, we're gonna have to scrap this. And I was like, no, I'm good. I think I just drank my fluids too fast. But really, I couldn't keep food down like most of the night. It was a pretty rough cut. So I don't know. It's kind of interesting. Maybe this is like a test run at 170 and see how.
Yeah, see if it's better. I mean, it sounds horrendous. So, getting down to 155. So this might be a better weight class for you. Training camp, you got decent amount of notice for this fight. Who have been some of the main guys you've been working with for this one?
Jordan Levitt for sure for the grappling. And I've got a couple lengthy 160 or 155ers, 170 pounders. I actually been moving up and like training with the bigger guys for this one just to get used to like the longer, taller welterweight guys. Like I'm trying to think of like Sasha Paletnikov. He's a good boxer. Juice is a good boxer. So I've been getting around with Sasha. He's now doing karate combat, which is kind of funny, but he's killing it over there. So, and they're paying him good. So I think he might stick with that. Who else am I working with? I just moved up and started working with the welterweights at the gym instead of the 55ers. So I should be all right.
Yeah, no, it sounds good. And who's going to be making the trip with you as far as your corner?
It's a local. I literally they call me on Easter like, hey, we're doing onboarding today. I'm like, I'm eating Easter with my family. This is right. Yeah. I got on my like electric scooter and I just like scootered down to the strip and started doing onboarding. But Lance will be in my corner, John Wood, Jordan Levitt. Those are my guys.
Awesome. And how's this one playing out on April 14th?
I think this is a good one. This is a fun one for the fans too. They put me at the first part of the card again. I'm number 1 to open up the card again for PFL, which is kind of annoying, but no better way to kick off the night than an action-packed fight between 2 strikers. So I think it's gonna be a fun one.
Should be awesome. And how does your fight work with the PFL season? Are you like, is this like an alternate fight, or how does that work?
I don't know, honestly. The showcase fight. Yeah, I'm just gonna go out there and give the fans what they want, and whatever happens, happens. I've come to realize, like, you've seen with like the Ultimate Fighter and UFC, and it's just such a cutthroat business that I never look past a fight, and I never worry about the future too much, because you start thinking about that, you're like, oh, job security, and then you just carry that into the cage with you, and it's like, I'm going with the flow now. This has just been a fun roller coaster, and I'm just happy to be on it.
Yeah, no, I get it for sure. Do you have like a multi-fight deal with PFL, or is it just the one fight? Like, do you do any of that at all, or?
It might just be a one fight deal. I mean, I figured they're like, I don't know. I think they kind of like with open arms, like, because I had that Sports Center knockout back in 2021. I think they're like, oh, it's a no brainer. Like, put them on the card, Plus, I'm local. Juice is local. I think it all just makes sense, like financially, and just like how to open up a card with like a banger of a fight,
Oh yeah, no, big time. No, it's an awesome fight on paper. And before we get out of here, you sort of talk a little bit about Easter? Did you get to relax a little bit? Obviously, got the fight coming up on Friday.
Yeah, so I ate like an Easter ham and some green bean casserole. I didn't know, like, I woke up like 174 pounds, and then ate all that ham, and they have you step on the scale on Monday or Sunday to see where you're at. And I was like 77, 78, but I was like, I just ate a whole bunch of salty ham, and I feel good. There's no injuries. Like, it's everything's been going wonderful, so not much of a cut. So I don't have no excuses for how I should feel in there. You know what I'm saying? So I could be myself finally. I'm happy about that.
And I'm just happy to see you fight and not have to deal with all this nonsense here. It's PFL 3, April 14th, this Friday coming up. Brandon, thanks so much for the time. If there's anyone you want to thank before we get out of here, any sponsors, any social media you want to mention, I'll give you the last word.
Yeah, I just want to thank Jordan Levitt for getting me ready. Syndicate, everybody there, my striking coach, Chris Trammell, head coach John Wood. I also like to thank my sponsor, Jet Alert, #1 caffeine pill in America. They're in Walmarts. They're everywhere. Who else? My awesome manager, Lance. Lance at Iridium. Thank you for having me on the show and giving me some platform,